guys. Today we're going to talk about chemical reactions. And they're very important when talking about biomolecules because we are trying to break down biomolecules, the big ones, carbohydrates, proteins, lipids, nucleic acids, so that our body can use them in a smaller form. So in this section, the main idea is chemical reactions allow living things to grow, develop, reproduce, and adapt. So what is the definition of a chemical reaction? So a chemical reaction is a process that changes one set of chemicals into another set of chemicals. And the way that this happens is by chemical bonds are broken and then chemical bonds are reformed. So think about it as the process of baking cookies. So when we're going to make cookies, we have to gather all the ingredients that are going to process our cookie recipe. So you're going to need flour, you're going to need sugar, you're going to need eggs, you're going to need salt, you're going to need some chocolate chips, you're going to need some baking soda. All of those things are what's going into the recipe in order to make chocolate chip cookies. So think of the ingredients as reactants. Reactants are elements or compounds that enter into a chemical reaction. So that's what's going into our process of making our cookies. The product are the elements or compounds produced by the chemical reaction. So if we think of the cookies themselves, they would be the product of our whole process. So we're putting together all of the ingredients, think of those as the reactants, and the outcome is then the product, which are chocolate chip cookies. Chemical reactions always involve breaking bonds in reactants and forming new bonds in the products. So that's what's happened. We are breaking the bonds and forming new bonds when we make cookies. And the energy, that would be the heat in the oven, is what causing this chemical reaction to actually occur. Now, energy can either be released or absorbed whenever chemical bonds form or are broken. Chemical reactions always involve changes in energy. So when we're making our cookies, if we don't put the cookie dough into the oven where the heat is, we are not going to end up with baked cookies as our end product. So that would be the energy if we were making cookies. Now, there's also an energy called activation energy. And what activation energy is just what it sounds. It's an energy needed to get the reaction started. We need something like putting the cookies into the oven. We need to get that whole process going. So, activation energy is a factor in whether the overall chemical reaction releases energy or absorbs energy. So we're going to talk about the two different types of chemical changes or chemical reactions, what the difference is between a reaction that releases energy or a reaction that absorbs energy. So think of the activation energy once again as something that gets something started. So for example, the cellulose in paper burns in the presence of oxygen, releasing heat and light. But it's not going to happen, there's no burning that's going to happen unless you light it with a match. So that is what's starting this whole process to begin. Now, the two types of chemical reactions are as follows. First type is called an exothermic reaction. This is a chemical reaction that has a lower energy in the product than in the reactant. So in an exothermic reaction, so think of exo right here as out. So an exothermic reaction is going to release heat. So it's going to give off heat. Again, the key to all of this, exothermic is going to release heat energy. The example that I put on here are hand warmers. You just smack the two hand warmers together, or smack your hands between those, and the chemicals react, releasing those hand warmers, making that certain substance warm. Or those glow sticks. Think about a glow stick. When you snap the glow stick, you're going to have light come off of the glow stick. That is an exothermic reaction. The other type of reaction is an endothermic reaction. And in an endothermic reaction, the energy of the products is higher than the energy of the reactants. So think of an endothermic reaction as something that absorbs heat or takes in the heat energy. This would be the type of reaction that bakes our cookies. So you have cookie dough, and the dough has to absorb the heat from the oven in order to cause the chemical reaction to bake the cookies. So once again, in an endothermic reaction, you are absorbing energy. Now, we've talked about this, and I'm sure you've done this in previous science classes. Plants get their energy from trapping and storing sunlight, and animals get their energy when they consume plants or other animals. Okay, that's how they get their energy. Humans release energy when they metabolize or break down digested food. So that's how we get the energy that we can give off, or that's how we give off energy when we are eating our food. Now, these chemical reactions can take a very, very long time, and we need that energy right away. So we have to have something in our system in order to speed up the chemical reaction. That's where enzymes come into play. Some chemical reactions are too slow or have activation energies that are too high to make them practical. So what we need is what's called a catalyst. And a catalyst is a substance that speeds up the rate of a chemical reaction. So it makes it go faster. What a catalyst does is it works by lowering a reaction's activation energy. Because we need, when we eat our food, we don't want it to just sit there. We need it for energy. So enzymes are proteins that act as biological catalysts. Enzymes make sure that it speeds it up and that it goes faster. Now, there are different parts and pieces to this particular type of reaction. Enzymes speed up chemical reactions that take place in the cells. So we already did that. But here's the key. Enzymes are very specific. So they're very specific. And generally they catalyze only one chemical reaction. That's it. Enzymes provide a site where reactants can be brought together. Enzymes can be used over and over again to speed up chemical reactions. So this site reduces the energy needed for a chemical reaction. The reactants of an enzyme catalyzed reaction are called substrates. So what happens is the substrate binds to a site on the enzyme called the active site, and then the reaction takes place. And once this has taken place and the reaction is over with, the enzyme is then free to start the process all over again. So these same enzymes continue to break things down over and over and over again. They're a continual process like that. And that is the end of the 6.2 notes.